Hello, folks, and welcome to Author Adjacent, a show about the journey from hobbyist writer to professional author. I am your host, Michael Vadney, and today I'm sitting with Shami Stovall, an author of several series under her belt, but with the latest being the Chronos Chronicles. Thank you for joining the show.
Thank you for having me. It's exciting to be here.
Of course. The first thing I want to ask is really the first thing I always ask is, how did you get started on your author journey? Like, what brought you up to this point today?
Well, I guess I first started thinking about being an author when I was a DM, like a dungeon master for
Yes.
Dungeons and
Mhm.
Dragons type of. So yeah, there you go. That sometimes when you are a DM, you can use like a pre-established campaign, like they have little modules that you can run. I didn't like any of those, so I made my own. I wrote my own story, had my own characters, my own setting, really, and a lot of my players said, "Oh, this is really fun. Like, this is really great. You're really creative.
Mhm.
You should be writing books." And so that's when I decided to do exactly that. And I started writing a bunch of books and novels on the side. It was mostly for my friends, but when they started reading it, they also, they were like, "Dude, you should do this professionally. Like, just writing books for all of us seems crazy. You should be pursuing this."
Yeah.
I was in law school at the time, like I was going to be an attorney, and I worked for as an attorney for a little bit, but that's when I decided that being an attorney sucks. So, I did all that schooling for nothing for nothing. Um, that's not true. I use a lot of my, law school knowledge to help write some of my books, and it was a valuable experience, but I mean overall it was basically worthless. Um, because I basically just dedicated myself to being an author um, full time. And my husband really made it possible because I just stopped working and he worked. And as soon as I made enough money, he then stopped working. He's also an attorney. And then that's when we moved. And then, now I'm a full time author. This is my entire job and career, and I love it. And I'm really blessed to be able to do something that is basically my passion. So, yeah, that's the story. The Reader's Digest condensed version.
I appreciate that. Yeah, it's definitely a lot of people make it like it's the unicorn dream of being able to live off your writing. So it's really awesome that you were able to get to that point. Congratulations.
Thanks.
And I haven't heard really an origin story where it's like, yeah, I had this cheerleading group that said I should do it, and it worked out. So that's really awesome. Usually, it's like something that comes like internally. It's great to have that validation really early on in your career. Do you think that really changed your trajectory with being a writer, and kind of that early validation helped push you forward?
Yeah, I found it to be really useful, especially from my husband. He reads
Mhm.
everything I ever write, so I like every single time I read a chapter, he reads it, he gives me feedback. He really loves my writing in general. I know
Nice.
some people might be like, he's lying to you, but um,
Oh,
sorry, my dog's, yeah.
no worries. They're keeping the house safe.
Some people might be like, "Oh, your husband's lying to you," or he's biased because he's
Mm.
obviously your husband. But technically, my husband's brother also tried to get into writing and write
Mhm.
books. And when my husband read it, because my husband's just brutally honest, like he's that type of guy who's not, he rarely ever sugarcoats anything. He's just, if you ever met him, I mean, 20 minutes in, you would understand what I'm talking about. He's not the kind of guy who would just kiss your butt because that's the easier route.
Mhm.
Anyway, he told his brother that he was terrible. He should not pursue a
Oof.
career in authoring. Yeah, brutal. So he's just very honest. So when he honestly tells me things like, "Oh, Shammy, you're a genius," I'm very flattered. But it's because of that I'm like, oh, I should keep going. I have a lot of internal demons, I guess. I think a lot of authors probably feel this. I don't think I'm unique in this, but I have a
Mhm.
lot of self-doubt. I just assume that I'm a trash bag. You know what I'm saying? Like, and all
Oof.
everything I've ever written is a trash bag. But my husband has always been there to be like, Shammy, you're delusional. Don't believe in yourself. Believe in me who believes in you," type of thing.
Yeah.
So,
Imposter syndrome definitely is rampant within the writing and author communities. I
yes.
think a lot of us really struggle with that. But it's good to have him in your corner that way. It's actually sounds a lot like my wife. She doesn't really sugarcoat things, and she lets me know, like, hey, you can do a lot better here. I know you can. I've seen it before. So, work on this one a little bit more.
She
it can
sounds
it
great.
Yes. Well, it's very helpful because it's nice to have that immediate feedback, especially like you're saying, you write a chapter and then you hand it to them. And it is very rare to have that closed loop so quick, so fast while you're developing a book. Like,
Hmm.
that's a treasure trove.
Yeah, he's amazing.
That's really awesome. So getting into your journey, then you have a D&D experience. uh, I love that. I just got done with a like 4.5 year campaign myself.
Ooh,
Super exciting. Yeah, it was
yeah.
awesome. uh, we went like all the way from levels 1 to 20 in 5e, and it took us 4 years and 35 days. So yeah, not a year and a half,
Oh, that's
or
that's
4.5.
awesome.
Oh, it was such a good time. We're about to get ready to ramp up for the next campaign, and I'm not going to be the DM this time, so I get to be a player, and that's always super exciting to switch. Do you still play, and do they still influence your stories in any way?
I we still play tabletop, but it is like it's rarer, like way
Hmm.
rarer. We used to do it like 2 to 3 times a week, and it's just less than that. I don't DM because I have to do my writing, and I feel
Hmm.
like I only have like a well of creativity for so many things. And if I also had a DM, you know, I'd be too tuckered out then to do my writing because I had to do all this prep work for the game.
Yep,
So I don't
I feel that.
DM. Yeah, it makes me feel a little sad because I really loved DMing. Like it was a lot of fun,
Hmm.
but it's just life, I guess.
Have you tried DMing like one shots or like little sessions just to kind of get the taste of it again?
I really like when games go a long time.
Me
Um,
too. They're so much better.
yeah, I don't actually like one shots. I apologize. I don't like super tiny games.
Yeah.
It's the same with like short stories. If a short story is good, I just want it to keep going. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like I don't want it to end. And if a short story was bad, I just wasted my time. So
Yeah.
I feel like it's the same with these one shots where I'm like, oh, if we had a great time with the one shot, I'd want to keep playing it. So no, I don't do those.
Yeah, it's really hard to get invested into the character and the character growth when you do one shots and stuff like that because there isn't any. Like you're just there to show up with this dude that you just made. You don't really know him that well.
Yeah.
Like I'll do them because I know a lot of people in my group really like them, but I definitely prefer the longer ones as well. There's so much more weight to everything that you do in a longer campaign.
Yes.
Yeah.
I also really like the larger unfolding stories.
Hmm.
A one shot can be fun, but chasing down that evil villain across an entire continent to get that one magical MacGuffin is definitely a little bit more satisfying when you finally, confront this person as opposed to the like single, 4 hours
Yeah.
later we're all done. You're like, okay.
Yeah. I can definitely agree with that. But getting back to the books and like your origins of an author, are there any particular books that you would call that your favorites that have really influenced your writing in particular, or any books in particular?
Um, Influenced my writing. So I feel like I had read a lot of Stephen King back in the day. And
Hmm.
so some of my books have a lot of body horror, even if they don't really need body horror, or things like Dean Koontz and stuff like
Hmm.
that. Um, I I really like high stakes and high tension. I also read a lot of like Tom Clancy, and that was
Nice.
like thriller stuff. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like I got a lot of like flavors from stuff like that. I don't know if I've read anybody and been like, oh man, this is the writing style I want. Um, I really like Robin Hobb does really nice like prose, but I
Hmm.
don't know if I could write like her because she sometimes has like multiple paragraphs worth of describing somebody's feelings about a certain situation, and I do like a little bit more like faster pace. So while I
Yeah.
appreciate that she's like a fantastic writer, you know what I'm saying? Like I don't know if I could imitate her style just because it's not quite it's not quite what I like super enjoy. Um
Hmm.
I really like really well plotted books. I know that sounds kind of weird, but When I first read the first Game of Thrones book, I don't know if you've read that book as opposed to watching the TV show, but that first book is like a master class in plotting. Every
Hmm.
chapter is phenomenal in terms of like building up to this crescendo of an ending. I mean, there's like a bajillion point of view characters, but it all comes together in a really satisfying way, like narratively. So I really, really love that kind of feeling. That's a little
Hmm.
harder or weirder to describe, but yeah,
It
those are
it
my
surprises
influences.
me that you really like plot driven stories, but then you also are really into Stephen King.
Well, so I went through a phase of Stephen King. What I like about
Mm,
Stephen King that I feel like not a lot of writers capture is that like tension. Like you just
mhm.
keep turning the page because you're like, well, what the fuck's going to happen next? And you can't guess because not even Stephen King knows what's going to happen
Yeah,
next until he gets to that
yeah.
page. Okay. It could be aliens. It could be ghosts. It could be, it's just a dude killing people. Yeah. It's just
It
a
could be
bear.
God.
Yeah. You don't know. And sometimes the ending just comes out of nowhere in Stephen King novels.
Yeah,
So I really just liked the tension.
yeah. I definitely have a love hate relationship with Stephen King novels because the beginnings and the first halves and even a little bit into the third quarter, I'm like, this is amazing. I love all the characters and they feel so real. And you're right, the tension is usually top notch. He knows how to carry tension through a scene. But I'm always very dissatisfied by the time I get to the end, and that's the feeling that I end up lingering with. But I'm like, I had so much fun for 75% of this.
Yes. That's exactly how I feel with a lot of Stephen King novels. Is that I get to the end and I'm like, oh, geez, that was the problem, quote unquote. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what's going on.
Yeah,
She's,
like
um,
this is how you fixed it. All
yeah.
right. I had fun
um,
getting here.
yeah. So, but I really like the tension. I feel like a lot of books, not a lot. Some books kind of like drag or like there's a slog, you know what I'm saying? Like there's a point where it's like so dull. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh geez. But never in a Stephen King novel, even when we're doing like weird low key stuff, it always feels really tense. Or like you never know, this old lady might lose her mind and stab somebody. um, so I like that. I like that feeling.
Yeah. Those are good examples for that. The first Game of Thrones book, what is the first one of actual book called? I
Oh,
don't
so I
remember
thought
off
it
the top of
was
my
I
head.
thought it was called Game of Thrones,
It
but
might
maybe
be
I'm
called
not.
Game of
Yeah.
Thrones, actually. I'm not sure. Uh, it's been on my list for a while to read because I know he's never going to finish the series, and that is unfortunate for everyone. But I have heard so much about the fact that it is a master class in writing in so many ways of foreshadowing and setting things up and then payoff. And now you're telling me for plotting and everything coming together. Like, I'm definitely a plotter myself. You sound like you're a plotter.
Yeah. So it is called Game of Thrones, first book of the
Oh, okay.
series. Yeah.
I definitely need to get into that. But, TBRs, they're mountains and then they never shrink. Every time I think I'm making progress on it, someone goes like, "You should read this because it's awesome." And I'm like, "God damn it."
Yeah, I've got like 200 books on my list that I need to catch up on.
Well, someday we will finish them. No, we won't. But we'll tell ourselves that.
Yes.
Uh, So I've seen that you're also an avid gamer. You talk
Mhm.
about it a lot on your social medias and stuff. Are there any particular games where they have influenced your story where you've gone like, all right, this was awesome. I love this RPG and everything that's happening with it. I want to do my version of it.
I did that for Fallout. I have a series called the Half-Life Empire, and I
Oh,
really like the Fallout series in general. So I wrote a trilogy of books based off of that. People in power armor, post-apocalyptic wasteland. Um,
well, I definitely
Mine
got to
has
read that.
aliens, so it's a little different than Fallout. But I mean, I guess Fallout technically has aliens, but
I'm
those are
gonna
more
say if
like
you play a
Easter
certain
eggs.
DLC,
Yeah.
there's a certain alien.
Um, but yeah, so I really love the Fallout setting, so that was my take on Fallout. Technically, my Arcanist series, like the Frith
Mhm.
Chronicles, I'm a huge fan of any sort of monster hunting, monster catching, monster anything, Pokemon, Digimon, Monster
Oh
Rancher, Azure
yes.
Dreams, all those games. I'm like neck deep in them, right? So the Frith Chronicles that starts with Nightmare Arcanist is my take on like Pokemon or like
Hmm.
Digimon. Like
Hmm.
there's lots of magical creatures. You can bond to them depending on what you bond with. You get magic. So, like if you bonded with a unicorn, you're like immune to poison, right? But if you bond to a
Nice.
phoenix, you could have fire and healing powers, like stuff like that. So, um, that really influenced that series. I guess my love of magical creatures.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I guess some video games everywhere are always sprinkled throughout. In my urban fantasy, that latest one, the 24-hour warlock, time marked warlock, all that kind of stuff. The main character can rewind time up to 24 hours. Like
Hmm.
that's the gimmick. That's the magic that he has. And it's described like a video game save point. He can make a save point and then he can just rewind to that time and then so I feel like if you know me, if you know that I like video games, you'll see video game references in a bunch of my works, but
Yeah.
it's not too crazy overt.
I thought, okay, so I definitely want to get into this. I'm actually a huge time travel story fan. If you can find a time travel story that works and doesn't just go, oh, time travel fixed everything, I love it, because that's such an easy pitfall to fall into. And so when I was reading the first one, Time Marked Warlock, and you had that limit of just, it's a hard limit of 24 hours. He sets his anchor. That's all he can do. I just thought that was a very clever way to very succinctly be like, yes, what he is doing is immensely powerful, but it doesn't solve everything. And you
Yeah.
see that immediately with like the introduction of the story, where it's like, yeah, it doesn't save everything, because like 10 years ago he lost his brother because he messed up.
Hmm.
And it's very quickly you learn like, how does his magic work, what are the limitations, and the limitations have already bitten him in the butt before.
Hmm.
Sorry, I just needed to rant. I just love a good time travel story, and I thought the Chronos Chronicles, I've only read the first two so far, did a really good job about handling this massive pitfall that
Oh
most time
yeah.
travel stories have to deal with.
I 100% agree with you. I do feel like sometimes time travel is just really we get into two categories that I hate, like time
Hmm.
travel paradoxes, where it's like, wait, what? And I love the Terminator series. Terminator is great, but sometimes when you think about the time travel, you're like, wait a minute, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
it
Like,
goes off the deep end a little bit.
yeah. Now the first two Terminator movies I actually think are really great, but
Agreed.
later in the movie series or TV series, any sort of other media, I feel like they always run into the problem of like, wait a minute, we have time travel. Why aren't we solving a lot of these problems with time travel? But so,
Yeah.
or they get into the category of they literally do solve everything, and then the author slash whoever is maintaining a piece of media has
Hmm.
to like justify why we're not using it. So in like Harry Potter, she introduced time
Yeah.
turners, and time turners just 100% solve everything, and you're like, oh, okay.
Everything
and
is
then
fixed. Yeah.
and then in another book they're like, all the time turners were smashed. You're like, well, none of them made it. And they're like, no, don't ever think about time turners ever again, they're all gone.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay, this was the author realizing that was a terrible mistake. You know
Oh
what
yeah.
I'm saying?
There
Like,
was a lot of regret in the next book for sure.
um yeah,
uh,
so that I hate those two situations. I hate if it's way too overpowered that it basically solves everything, and so why aren't we using it? Or those like weird paradoxes, like, wait a minute, how does somebody from the future, Sean Connor's father, like,
mhm.
like how did he exist? Like, like those types of questions. Am I my own
Yeah.
grandfather? And you're like, hmm. So yeah, when I did Time Marked Warlock, I did want to have a lot of limits because
Oh,
that's my doggo Gigi. She's 7 pounds. Never mind her.
7 pounds of terror.
Yeah,
She heard me. She's coming.
yeah, I think she did. Um, and so I made it with this hard 24-hour limit because then
Mhm.
we can't get into too many paradoxes, right? The entire world is reset. So unlike a time turner, where apparently you just make duplicates of yourself, because that's what's
Yeah.
really happening. Hermione can be in two classes. Technically, Hermione and Harry and Ron are off, doing things while also saving the hippogriff.
Hmm.
So that's another one of those like weird paradoxes to me too, where it's like, oh, okay, so there's just multiple Harry Potters in this one
Yeah.
segment. You know what I'm saying? Like, and if Harry Potter is a Horcrux, what does that mean about Voldemort's
Oh my
number of
god, I didn't even
Horcruxes?
think of that.
Yeah,
It's been
like
years.
those types of paradoxes where I'm like, whoa. So
Yeah.
I wanted to avoid all that. Like, just we don't even need to talk about that kind of stuff. What happens in Time Marked Warlock is the world is reset, right? Like it is like a video game. He goes back to his anchor. Everything is completely reset. Technically, he can grant people the ability to remember that time has been rewound. But if he doesn't grant them this ability, nobody remembers. No paradoxes. You know what I'm saying? Like none of that. You can't be your own grandpa with this time travel. Like,
Yeah. It
so
it's very impressive because like it's very simple, but it's very elegant answer to, I'd say, like 99% of the potential problems of time travel stories. And it does make them powerful. Like you see it throughout the story that it doesn't solve all of his problems immediately, but it's a very impressive tool that he uses very uniquely in a lot of different ways to solve a lot of different kind of problems. Um, so yeah, kudos. Big
thanks.
fan right here.
I'm really glad you enjoyed. I thought it was a lot of fun.
Oh, immensely. I can't wait for the third one. I'm definitely waiting for the audiobook for it. Jeff Hayes and crew are doing phenomenal jobs with them.
Yeah, yeah.
Definitely
I
a big
love
fan.
all their work.
Yeah, I came across this stuff like from most people through Dungeon Crawler Carl, and then I saw your books being posted online because you were posting a bunch of things like cover art and stuff like that, and I saw like, oh, time marked warlock. That sounds exactly up my alley. Not normally an urban fantasy guy, but let's give this a go. Definitely won me over.
Oh, okay, good, good. I'm glad to hear that. Makes my day. The demons are a little quieter now. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, hit me up anytime you need to shush them a little bit. I'm a good hype man.
I really appreciate that.
No worries. But getting back into the nuts and bolts of it, I guess
Hmm.
something I did want to ask you: if you could go back in time and re-experience any story for the first time, what would you pick? It could be a book, a movie, a video game, whatever you please.
Um, I guess the types of media that I really sometimes think to myself, man, I wish I could experience this all for the first time again, are the ones that have the substantial twists. Like, I
Hmm.
can't ever duplicate the feeling of being shocked. So I like a lot of series, and occasionally I've reread them because they still elicit the same types of emotions. You know, like, oh, this was thrilling, or this was a really touching scene. And if I go back and reread it, I can still get those feels. But I
Hmm.
can't ever duplicate the oh shit moment. You know what I'm saying? Like didn't even see that coming.
Yeah,
I feel like in book form, Ender's Game blew my mind pretty
that
hardcore.
that's a good pick.
Yeah, this is an older book now, you know, so I don't feel like I'm spoiling anything. But the fact that he thought it was all a simulation, and then at the end it was actually real,
Hmm.
was very like shocking to me, and I was like, "Oh Jesus," you know, like, "Whoa." I I guess you know I probably would enjoy rereading the book right now if I didn't know the twist. There are a few video games that have pulled that off pretty well too. I Silent Hill 2. I don't know if you've ever played Silent Hill 2.
I'm a
Um,
big pansy when it comes to horror games, so I tend to stay away from them.
okay, yeah, well, in Silent Hill 2, there's a twist in the ending.
Hmm.
Again, this is an old game, so I feel like spoiling it isn't that big of a deal. But you go to
The
the
NDA
town.
is passed.
Yeah, you're playing a dude whose wife has been dead for several years, and you're sad. You know, you're a sad sack. But then you get a letter from her, and it's like, "Hey, come to Silent Hill and come meet me here." And you're like, "What the fuck? She's been dead this whole time. Like, who sent this letter?" You
What's
know. So
going
then
on?
you go to Silent Hill. You meet a bunch of kooky characters, right? You're here, and you're remembering your wife and how much you loved your wife, and your wife's great, and all this other kind of bullshit. And then at the end of the game, you discover that you're just kind of being haunted by your own mental illness because you killed your wife, and you wrote yourself that own letter, and you're just fucked up in the head, and you're like, whoa. And that blew my mind 2 where I was just like, Jesus Christ.
That's some Shutter Island level stuff.
Yeah. Um, I also really liked Final Fantasy VI. Again, this is an older game. I don't feel like I'm ruining anything, but halfway through the game, the world is
Green light all
destroyed.
the way. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So for the first half, you're gathering your kooky crew and you're suplexing a train and you're having a great time. And then halfway through the game, bad guy, fucks it all up and it becomes like a magical post-apocalyptic wasteland. Like everything's like literally destroyed.
Nice.
And so when you regather your crew through the entire ruined world that you already explored before, very fun. It was very shocking, I guess, to little Shammy. Little Shammy gasped because that's crazy.
Not a lot of video games do that.
Yeah. Well, now it's almost impossible to play a game without I feel like being spoiled about everything,
Yeah.
6 months ahead of the game release. For instance, again, maybe I'm over the hill and I'm just old, but I remember in the Nintendo 64 era, I played Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time,
Nice.
and I didn't know that the game you were going to become adult Link, or 18-year-old Link, whatever. So when I'm playing and you're like little kid Link and you're doing little kid things, and then later you go to the Temple of Time and you're bamboozled by Ganondorf, but then you become like 18, and I was like, whoa, I'm like an
Yeah.
adult Link now. That's crazy. My mind, like so. I don't know which one of these stories I would want to experience all over again, if that makes any sense, because they're all really great. They all stick out to me as like, wham. I guess I'd probably just pick Ender's Game, probably because I could get to it the fastest. A lot of these other
Yeah.
video games would require a lot of time to get to the twist, but I could probably read Ender's Game in like a day or maybe 2 days.
Nice. But there's also a certain impact a story has on you because you consumed it at that period of your life too.
Yeah, my friends and I always joke that your favorite Legend of Zelda is whichever one you played when you were about 13.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Like we're very impressionable at that age.
Hmm.
I can't name the number of like shows, books, or video games that I've like gone back to play as an adult because I'm like, I had so much fun with that. It was awesome. And then I replay it or reconsume it. And I'm like, oh no, I've ruined it. It's actually trash. I should have just kept this amazing memory. And it would have been so much better. Look, what have I done to myself?
Well, I've only experienced that a couple times, and it's usually with TV shows. Like as a
Yeah.
kid, I would be like, "Wow, I really love Mummies Alive. Mummies Alive is so great." And then
I
when you
don't
watch
know that
Mummies
one.
Alive,
Mummies
it's
alive.
it's
I'm
trash.
searching
It's a
this.
garbage bag. Okay, it's not a good show, not even a little bit. But I was really into like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and there was like
Mhm.
a bunch of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles ripoffs, like other teams of four
Oh, like
doing things like Street
the
Sharks,
yes,
Mummies
Street
Alive. Yeah.
Sharks. Yes.
These are
Okay,
all like rip-offs, biker mice from Mars. All of them are just like they're trying to capitalize off the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, formula.
that's
And I,
awesome. Do you? Oh, go ahead.
oh no, sorry, ask away.
I was just gonna ask. Did you ever get into Zoids?
No, not into Zoids.
It's giant mechs, but they're animals instead of like Gundams. They were
Yeah.
definitely trying to carry off the Gundam craze, but with the animal version, it's almost the exact same story.
So
Definitely
I
rewatched it, ruined it.
So that's what I was just trying to, I guess, say is that sometimes when I rewatch television shows that I liked as a kid, I'm like, oh God, cringe, died a little bit
Yep.
inside.
Yep.
But the video games, I've gone back and played tons of video games from my past, and I'm like, you know what? This totally holds up. I really love Super Mario RPG. That was a game that came out
Hmm.
for the Super Nintendo, and I've replayed the Super Nintendo version. I replayed the remake. Yeah, it's not as sophisticated as modern games now with their like hyper
It's solid though.
graphics and 30 different dialogue choices and 13 different endings, but it was a great RPG, had great music, great little lines, great little characters. It stands up the test of time.
Yeah.
Not Mummies Alive. don't don't rewatch that. Um I also kind of
I'll
had
try
like
to
a
resist.
love-hate relationship with mechs in general. I don't know why,
Oh,
but
do tell.
um dude, I liked Gundam Wing, and I like
Mhm.
Escaflowne, and I would consider both of those hardcore into the like the mech area. But I
Mhm.
guess there were just too many mech shows at the time because I do remember Zoids coming out, but there were a lot of other. There was like Voltron and like a whole
They
bunch of other
exploded,
stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. They all started to like blend together, where I was just like, I don't want to watch any of this anymore.
Yeah.
And lately, there's like been Attack on Titan. I don't know if you watch anime.
Attack on Titan is like flesh
They're
anim
flesh
flesh
mechs.
Gundams.
They're
Yeah.
flesh mechs, and as soon as that happened, as soon as he turned into a flesh mech, I was like, "I'm out." Like, that was the episode where I was like, "Nope, I'm out of this. Sorry, guys." I know everybody loves the show, so I feel weird sometimes when I bring it up, and I'm like, as soon as it turned into flesh mechs, I just turned off the episode and was like, "Not watching anymore."
I actually never made it past season 1. I know a lot of people really love it and they're like, "It's amazing," but I couldn't get into it.
That's okay. I'm in the same boat, so we can take that heat together.
Sounds good. Get hunker down behind the barrier.
Mhm.
Did you ever try Code Geass? And the reason I ask is because I describe it as a mech anime that's not about mechs.
I did not try it. People did recommend it to me, but I haven't tried it yet.
I'm a big fan. It's pretty good. Uh, the story, there are mechs. The technology exists in the world. That is the main all power military force of countries. But that's not what the story about. That is a B plot at best.
It's a thing in the
Everything
background.
else is about the Geass and everything that happens with that, which is more like a fantasy magic in a semi future Japan. I
Okay.
don't know. Worth checking out. It sounds like you like anime.
Oh yeah.
Definitely check it out.
I really got into My Hero Academia, and recently I saw that My Hero Academia Vigilantes came out, so I need to start
Hmm.
watching that. Um, I really just like superheroes and shonen anime in general. Like if there's like crazy fight scenes, you
Oh
know,
yeah.
that like tension, we were talking about Stephen King with the tension, you just gotta keep watching. That's how I feel with the shonen. I'm just like, just inject it into my veins. I need this like we need to be life and death situations fighting a million people all the time.
I
Ever
agree.
escalating fights, the anime would be my favorite anime. You know what I'm saying? Like
So all right. So we're talking definitely Naruto Shippuden, Bleach, all of the classics.
Dragon Ball Z. I've
The
watched
OG.
yeah, I've watched every Dragon Ball Z anything. Much to my
Yeah.
husband's chagrin, I brought him to like the theaters to watch the Brawly movie and stuff like
Oh,
that.
nice. I I love the lore and the fight scenes in Dragon Ball Z, but I have a hard time getting into the story itself.
All right, interview over.
I gotta
I'm
go.
joking.
Uh, have you tried everyone's latest favorite thing, solo leveling though?
Oh, I did. I watched the first season. Um
Hmm.
and it's fun. I like the music, I like the animation. I do
Hmm.
think that the main character is like verging on psychopath, which is a little bit of a turnoff for me.
Yeah.
I do like it a little bit better when they are heroic in some way. Um,
Hmm.
Now I guess I also hate when the main characters are fucking idiots. So like Goku is not my favorite in Dragon Ball Z. Like
Yeah.
it's just a major turnoff for me. But I do like Vegeta. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm
Vegeta's
here for
dope.
Vegeta. Yeah. um, and so in solo leveling, it's cool that he just keeps punching everybody in the face. And then he worked
It's
really hard to get
100%
his
hype.
power.
Yeah.
I just wish he was a tad bit more heroic. Like there are lots of scenes in which he's
That's
just
fair.
like watching everybody die, or in that one scene where then he murders everybody brutally. And I get it, they were bullying him, but there is a piece of me that's like, I don't know if everybody needs their throat slit for this, but I guess, you know what I'm saying? I guess that's what we're watching
They
now.
were they were gonna kill him. That is a thing.
That's
But
true.
I do get your point. I would encourage you to try the second season. It is completed now. He does turn it around.
Mm.
He does become more heroic as the second season progresses. Because he does get kind of dark for a little bit. Um,
Yeah, and I guess I'm just maybe it's because I just like the classic heroes and superheroes and other stuff like that. I like when the good guys are good and the bad guys are bad and the love is true, like that kind of
oh yeah,
bullshit. Like maybe I'm just again, maybe I'm maybe I'm stuck in an age that nobody wants to be in anymore because I have seen a lot more of these. Like, I want to. They're not like they're like gray anti-heroes. Like that's what how people
Yeah.
describe them, where they're like, yeah, if you fuck with this guy, he's gonna kill you and your whole family and all the children in that family because he takes revenge seriously. And I'm like, that sounds dark. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if I would be on board for that. But so that was the vibes I got from Solo Leveling season one, where
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, geez, this guy.
He definitely does get dark for a little bit. But I encourage season 2. He does turn it around. He does start to become more heroic. Um, yeah, I'll let you
Okay,
find
yeah,
out.
yeah. I'll probably check it out. Everybody and their mother is very excited for it. And like I said, everything else
There's so much hype.
is top notch. You know what I'm saying? Like again, top notch animation. It's got really cool scenes. That music
Oh
is
yeah.
great. It's chef's kiss. This was just like a subjective personal taste where I was like, hmm, hmm, you know.
No, no, that's very fair. That's a very fair criticism. I would definitely say like grim dark and darker characters in general. I don't want to say they're on the rise because they've been very popular for a very long time at this point. And I'm kind of wondering if it will ever swing back to more traditional heroes where the good guys are good, the bad guys are bad, and love is true. Uh, I'm not sure if it ever will switch back. I hope it does because reading and consuming gray character after gray character after gray character can feel monotonous after a while. So it can be feel very refreshing to see like a golden hero like Superman.
Well, so I see a lot of criticism online that they say things like the good guy hero is really boring. Like that's what a lot of people
That's
say.
not
They're like,
true.
yeah, I guess I just disagree. Like I
Yeah.
really like it when a good guy is so good that there's the struggle from being good. Um I love Batman. Okay, of the DC superheroes, I feel like Batman is cooler in terms of like Superman, Batman type of thing.
Hmm.
Batman is unflinchingly good. Okay,
Hmm.
Batman, I mean, doesn't in some comics and in some medias, he
And
picks up
say
a gun.
he gets dark sometimes.
Yeah, but most of the time, I want to say 80% of the time, depending on his writer, he doesn't use a gun. He doesn't kill wantonly. I know that that's like a joke that he throws everybody into Arkham Asylum and that he's the problem with Gotham because if he just started killing everybody, Gotham would be better. But it's not his fault that the fucking Gotham like police
The
department
worst
entrenches.
security ever.
Yeah, just to have Gotham vote on a death penalty and kill these guys the legal way. What the fuck? But whatever. But Batman is unflinchingly good. Okay, and
Hmm.
Batman still handles himself in a very cool anti-hero way, but he
Hmm.
doesn't compromise. I really love the Injustice comics. Dude, I've been rereading them. That's right here in my fucking thing because I just wanted to reread Injustice again. And
Nice.
Batman just doesn't give a fuck. He's got zero fucks to give. Like
Hmm.
Superman's up at his grill being like, "No, we need to go full tyranny. I'm going to murder everybody who's a bad guy." And Batman's like, "Dude, you're fucking insane. You're a crazy person. I don't care if you punch me to death. I'm never going to side with you." You know what I'm saying? Like, and that kind of like good guy attitude,
Hmm.
even when the world is against you, even when the bad guys are so overwhelmingly powerful that you're probably going to lose. And the good guy's like, you go fuck yourself. Yeah, and I'm like, that's the good guy that I'm always clapping for. I mean, it almost reminds me of like Rorschach from The Watchmen,
Yeah.
right? Rorschach is also like unflinchingly good. I know he throws people into wood chippers, but they were child rapists and other stuff like that.
They had
But
it coming.
and Rorschach wants to expose all the bad guys no matter what, even though everybody's like, don't do it, man. They're going to kill you. And he's like, dude, I don't care.
No.
Okay, those are the types of good guys where I'm like, oh my gosh, look at the balls on this guy.
Yeah, you just see the sacrifice that all of the sacrifices that they're willing to keep and undertake in order to maintain their code. That is so much harder than just throwing someone off a building because you're angry.
Well, I agree. I 100% agree. That's why I really like them. I mean, I guess that's why I like Batman in particular. Because
Hmm.
Superman has so much power that there's rarely ever a bad guy who challenges him in the terms of like, if you don't do exactly what I say, I'm going to kill you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like even when Doomsday flies down, Superman and Doomsday go toe to toe. But with
Well,
Batman,
Superman. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, Batman's just a normal guy. So when all of these crazy supervillains are like, "Get out of my way! I'm gonna kill all these civilians, or else I'm gonna kill you first," and Batman's like, "Nah, nah, I'm still gonna fight you." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Man, Batman over here! Look at the size of this guy's testicles."
Yeah. Superman's whole thing is he is so overpowered that his whole struggle is restraint. Like, I can do anything I want, but I'm trying to be good. Like, I want to be good. I want to do this the right way. And that's like his moral high ground is like, I can literally do anything and no one can stop me, but I
Well,
choose to do this instead.
yeah, I guess my nuanced take is I prefer heroes that face down overwhelming darkness than
Mm.
I prefer heroes that are the overwhelming darkness if they chose to be. Does if that make any sense?
No, that makes sense because that makes the first one is more relatable to us as regular human beings. Like, we have so many choices throughout all the day. It is very easy to be a dick, and it's very hard not to be in a lot of situations.
Yeah. So yeah, I really like characters that stand up to what is basically just evil, even though it looks like they're going to lose or they're very potentially going to lose. I'm always there for that style of story. I'm just clapping hard.
Nice. Okay, so we talked about comics and anime. We're all
Yeah,
over the place.
yeah,
I'm going to
everywhere.
get back to talking about you.
Right.
So something I actually wasn't sure about that I did want to ask you a little bit about. Are you traditionally published or are you indie published?
I'm both. I have done
Okay.
both routes. I know that, some people might not believe me, but I made way, way, way more money being indie published than
Hmm,
traditionally published, which is why
that
I
makes sense.
stopped being traditionally published or stopped even pursuing a lot of those
Mhm.
avenues because, in the traditionally published world, they give you like an advance, like a royalty check. Um, and that's nice, but normally it's not like gangbusters. I know some people are like, I got $1 million book deal, but those are
Those are the
rarer.
rare.
Yeah, those are
Yeah.
extremely
That's like
rare.
the
That's
1 percenters.
um and what happens is they give you an advance. It's not that much to like really live off of. They publish the book like a year or two later. You won't see royalties from that book until first your advance is paid back and then after that, and that's after your agent has taken a cut, the publishing company has taken a cut, the audio people have taken a cut,
Nice.
like, and then you get your money, right? When I was first traditionally published and my first royalty check came back and it was $50, I was like, you know what, I need to I need to stop doing this. I need to go out and do my own stuff. And
Mhm.
so when I indie published, I made considerably more money. I already told you, I stopped being an attorney. My husband stopped being an attorney. That's just where the money was for me. Now
Mhm.
I do have some deals in the works with publishers, and I have a book coming out with Athon in June, and I have some other
Nice.
stuff coming out that are like traditionally published, like publishing houses that put them out, right?
Mhm.
So we'll see how that works. If it does really well, that'll be great. And if not, I'll just go back to indie publishing. But technically, I've done both.
I have noticed a rising trend in people that are desiring to do both. And the kind of like basic descriptors of both that I hear a lot is go traditional to get your name out there, to become known,
Mm.
but go indie to actually make your money and pay your bills.
Well,
And
I
I've
would
seen,
agree with
go
that. I think that's really good. Now, some people, when they get traditionally published, can still make a ton of money
hmm
with their, traditional publishing deals. I'm not saying that doesn't exist either. I just feel
hmm
like that's even rarer than these other situations I'm talking about. You have to kind of get there's a little bit of an element of luck, you know what I'm saying, to
yeah,
some of this. So my biggest advice really is to just keep trying. Don't just write
yeah,
one book, and if it doesn't work, stop. You know what I'm saying? You have to keep writing books. Eventually, you'll hit that lucky. You know what I'm saying? Like luck only favors the people who are out there trying. You
yeah.
can't get lucky if you're not trying. If Does that make any sense?
No, it makes total sense.
Okay,
This is something I've talked about a little bit before on the show. Is that like so? I'm working on my debut novel right now.
nice.
I'm on like my fifth draft. It goes to the editor after this. The whole thing is a big learning process. But I'm going to keep doing this until like one of two things happens. It works out and people like to read what I write and I'm having a good time, or I keep doing it and I'm dead and I don't care anymore because I'm dead and it's not my problem. And that's kind of just the attitude I think is really helpful to take if you enjoy the process of just simply writing and talking to people about books and just really along for the ride.
Yeah, you have to really like storytelling and writing, I feel, to be in this field and to really stick
Yeah.
out what can be kind of like disappointments, you know what I'm saying? Like really sad. Um, like what
Yeah,
if you
there's a
put
lot
out
of
your
ups and
book,
downs.
yeah, and you got like 5 reviews and 2 of them are bad, you know what I'm saying? And somebody's like, "This book sucks and you're a trash bag for writing it." And then, you feel bad forever. Yeah. Nobody wants to see that. You have to persevere past that. You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? Like it happens to everybody. It's happened to me. I'm sure it'll happen to me again in the future. It's happened to my husband, who's also an author. It's happened to people who are huge, like J.K. Rowling,
Hmm.
Stephen King. You know what I'm saying? Jim Butcher. If you go look at their 1-star reviews, you'll see tons of people who are like, "I can't believe that this book has these types of reviews. It's complete garbo. I hate
Yeah.
everything about it." Yeah, and you're like, "Oh, geez."
Yeah.
Um,
Unfortunately, it's just everybody's opinions.
yeah, you just have to you have to be willing to stick it out through that, you know what I'm saying? And if you're not,
Yeah.
I feel like you're less likely to be one of those people that gets lucky.
Yeah. Because then you're kind of just banking on success on the first try. And
Mhm.
most things kind of just don't work out that way.
Yeah.
It does for some people, and good for them, but that's not going to be the case for most people.
Yeah. And as long as you're willing to stick it out, I feel like, it'll happen, especially if you keep improving your craft. I guess there are some people who don't learn from any of their mistakes, in which case I don't know how to help those people, but they say it takes 10,000 hours to get good at a
Hmm.
skill, and I feel like writing it is just another skill, right? So even if this first book doesn't work out, and maybe even if the second book doesn't work out, you're still learning a lot from
Yeah.
writing those books, completing them, getting them done. I feel like you just become better and better. So,
Oh, so much. I feel like every step that I get through in writing this debut, I'm like, so much more information is now in my brain than when I was just trying to learn about it and just trying to consume what people are saying on the internet and in the books and classes and stuff like that. There's nothing that will teach you more about writing than writing.
yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So, what advice would you give then to aspiring authors when they are weighing like the two different paths of should I try to go traditional? Should I try to go indie? Like, which one would you, or what advice would you give for someone who's trying to make that decision?
Well, I guess I would ask them a couple precursor questions.
Fire
First
on the way.
off, do you want fame and recognition more than you
Hmm.
want money? You know what I'm saying? Because if you do, then traditional publishing looks a little bit better, right? Because you're willing to
Okay.
just wait around not getting paid in order to get your fame and recognition.
Hmm.
Do you want the sort of prestige or bragging rights? Because a lot of people sometimes now, personally, I don't think it's that big of a deal if you're traditionally published, but some people think it's a really big deal, and
Hmm.
if it matters to you, again, go traditionally published.
Hmm.
Um, it depends on the genre. If you're writing in lit RPG, for example, I would
Yeah.
definitely recommend going indie because not a lot of traditional publishers want to take lit RPG books. And you're going to just disappoint yourself by reaching out to them because they're going to read your book and be like, why the fuck are there stats? You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying? And you're going to be
What are
like,
all these
oh,
numbers?
yeah. Um, right. So there's all these factors to consider: the genre, what your ultimate goal is, et cetera, et cetera. And so
Hmm.
I feel like if your ultimate goal is, I want to make money, I want to start making money right now, I want to start building my career, then indie publishing. And if your real goal is, I just want prestige, I want fame and recognition, or I want to win some of these awards or something like that, then traditional publishing.
Hmm.
Um, I feel like some genres, like romance, you can kind of do both. There are big, big, big romance publishers like Harlequin. I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't know if you know anything about romance, but
A little bit.
you can go into those categories. But indie romance is exploding so hardcore that it's like mind blowing. Like people are making so much money
Oh yeah.
It's insane. How and the special edition romance books are also exploding out the shelf. I don't know if you were remembering the Fourth Wing craze where they just wanted sprayed edges on the cover of their book with little dragons on there. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah,
Okay.
I've seen the sprayed edges with them. I wasn't around for the craze of it. I don't think I was quite in the community at the time, but I know that Fourth Wing is like a very popular romantasy.
Yeah. So I feel like if you're writing in romance, it probably is better again to just go indie because you can start making money, or to look into
Mhm.
doing special editions on your own and just start making money. So really, it's genre dependent, it's your goal dependent. There's lots of different things you can do. It really just depends.
Yeah. I had originally intended, my original plan when I first decided, like, all right, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to finally write a book. And I was like, I'm going to try to go traditional, query for like a year, and then see what happens. If nothing happens, I'll go indie. But then I started doing like the show and actually talking to people who have done both routes. And I would say probably like the biggest influence on this was Adrian M. Gibson, talking to him off and on, either on the show. And oh, yeah, he's the author of Mushroom Blues, if you haven't checked it
Oh,
out.
okay, okay, yeah.
It's like a police procedural fungal punk is what he calls it. Uh, it's a really unique book. I highly suggest it. But from talking to him, and he had his words. He has a show also called Fanfi Addicts, where he interviews authors all over the place,
Oh, nice.
and he was just telling me about like all the things you can do with indie author and how much control you have, and like the versatility of it and the viability of it, because that was
Hmm.
something I just had no idea of. I didn't know that you go to being an indie author if you wanted to pay your bills,
Yeah.
because you have a more decent chance of doing that. And it was him and many other people that were like, you know what? I'm just going to go directly that. I'll try that, see how it goes, get my name out there. But I think eventually I would love to do both.
Hmm.
We'll see what happens though.
Well, just
Only
keep
the
those
future will
goals in
tell.
mind, man. Just keep at them.
Yeah, pretty much. Like I said, I'm going to keep doing this until I die. So
Perfect.
exactly. Something I did want to ask you. I know we're like reaching the end of
Yeah,
our
yeah.
time on here, but what I did want to ask you is, do you have a general process for writing your book? And is it the same for every book, or does it change per book? As a lot of books.
Um, it is kind of the same for every book. I always outline. I
Hmm.
use a 3x structure outline. That's my favorite. Um,
Big fan.
yeah, big fan, big fan.
It's an ancient way.
Well, I've seen some people argue that the 4x structure is better. I personally like 3x stuff. I
Hmm.
always outline, and I usually think about the magic system. I really like unique and cool magic systems. I also really want them to be easy to understand at first. Like they're easy to understand in the general, but if we talk about the specifics, we could get complicated and nuanced. Like that's the kind of magic system I like, and that does require a lot of forethought. Basically, you know what I'm saying? Like I have to kind of
Yeah.
develop that before I start writing. 24-hour or the time marked warlock rather. Um, the problem I ran into with that was that warlocks, like in Dungeons and Dragons and other media, they usually only bond with like one thing. Like they have
Hmm.
one patron, and that's where they get all their powers. And I wanted a dare to be able to have more, so I needed to have a magic system that justified. Because I also can't just have a magic system where he can just bond with unlimited number of creatures, because then it gets too powerful. That's not as cool. So I
Yeah.
came up with this core system. Like every human has 5 cores to their being, and he can bond with up to 5 things, right? And he obviously has Chronos. That's how he gets his time power. But he also bonds with that mischief spirit in book one. So then he has that
Hmm.
mischief power. So I thought about that long before I did the outline, right? I had to
Hmm.
make sure that that magic system made sense to me and could work and was easy to understand, because it's kind of the cornerstone of how a lot of the book works, right? Because he has his time powers and he can rewind time, and but how does he do that? And
Yeah.
and also if Bree is there asking him questions, if I don't know the answers, like the author doesn't know the answers, then Adair can't answer. You know what I'm saying? So I do all that kind of stuff ahead of time, and then I just write it all, and then I go through, and that's when I do my edits and reread it and all that kind of stuff. So, and I think I do that with every single book.
Nice. Yeah, I thought the magic system in it's called the
Yeah,
what
Chronos
what is
Chronicles. Yeah,
Chronos Chronicles. Getting through the alliteration.
yeah,
I really liked the core system with not just with the warlocks, because that was a good way to kind of like pull away from D&D while still making it familiar enough, but how it fits in with the witch system with
hmm
like Bree and her mother and stuff like that, and how those systems interact with each other. I thought that was really well thought out. I liked that a lot. You can definitely see your love for magic systems in your books.
yeah. I really do. So I think about that a lot before I start writing. I know
Yeah.
some people are like pantsers, like people who just start writing and then it all comes together as they write. I don't think I could.
I
I don't think I could do
never.
that.
Absolutely never. That is not within my wheelhouse. But I think we're running out of time at this point. Please, could you tell the people where can they find you and where can they find your books? And if you have anything that you're currently working on that you want to shout out, tell the people.
You can basically find me anywhere books are sold. I have audiobooks, ebooks, special edition books, normal books. You know, they're everywhere. I believe a lot of my audiobooks are on like the library Libby system. So if that's how you like to listen to
Love
audiobooks,
Libby.
yeah. I have a website, Shami Stovall. My first name is kind of unique, so it's kind of hard to miss me. um, I have a book coming out in June called Words of Power. That's the one with Aethon. So I'm really excited for that. That's like a Japanese inspired progression fantasy. So ever escalating fights, the novel. You know what I'm saying? I'm really looking forward to that one just because it has a very unique magic system. It's probably one of my funnest that I've ever created. So really can't wait to see how that goes. So yeah, that's me. That's Shami.
Super awesome. Thank you so much for coming on to the show today.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great time chatting with you. I love chatting about anime and superheroes and books, you know.
Awesome. All right, folks. That is going to be it for us today. Thanks for hanging out with us and have a good one.
Bye bye.